G'day guys, how are we? Welcome to the weekly roundup. It is Friday, March the 15th, 2024, and it was a little bit slow to get going this week, but by the end of the week, as always, so much to go through, both here in Australia and overseas. Let's start with the Australian news and the big, well, I'll call it the big no limit card in Wollongong on Wednesday night. Sam Goodman improved to 18-0 with a one-sided beatdown of Mark Schliebs, who dropped to 13-3. Look, I've had a lot to say on the programs on here, as well as Instagram or wherever it might be, and I've been pretty vocal in my opposal to the pay-per-view aspect of it. This cost $50 here in Australia for what should have probably, in my opinion, just been a Wednesday night show on Fox. I do understand. A lot of people have commented about this as well, so I'll just clarify. No Limit have X amount of pay-per-views they have to do per year. And of course, they have to string them out and obviously get the production done and the fights in place. So I understand why they needed to probably tick a box this early in the year, probably the first quarter, to get a pay-per-view under the belt. So I understand that. But Mark Schliebs as the opponent, I was very critical of. The card itself, look, was okay. Some really good fights on the card. We'll get through all the results in a second. But I thought that the fight card itself was actually quite solid, except for the main event. Looked like there was a good crowd up there. I'm sure Wollongong got right behind their man, Sam Goodman, up there, who put on a very, very good performance, I will say. Just did what he had to do. You're looking at an international level fighter up against a domestic level fighter, and I can't think of any other term to put it. Well, I'm not going to apologise to the Mark Schliebs fans out there, because it is what it is. But the fact of the matter is, he was a domestic level fighter in with Sam Goodman, who's ranked number one by two organisations, and really didn't have any reason whatsoever to be in the ring. And again, I understand the way it all works with the pay-per-view aspect, but also the fact that Sam Goodman would have wanted to keep busy, wanted to keep fighting. And this was strictly a tune-up fight for him. And George Rose, give him credit. And Mark Schliebs, I will say, give him credit as well. They did every single thing they could possible to hype this event up to the point where I thought they'd actually done a really good job, and the numbers might be too bad. But if you didn't see my Instagram poll last week, 78% of my followers, it was about 120 or 125 votes or something that we got, and 78% said they weren't going to buy the fight. And considering that nearly all of those people on the deep dive page, of course, are there because they're boxing fans, so if that's a reflection across the board, 78% said they wouldn't buy the fight. I'm going to be a little bit horrified to see the numbers. Now, I think the gate on the night would have been quite successful, so I'm sure they would have made money. But hopefully it's a little bit of a message to the No Limit boys that, look, Australian boxing fans, we're not that hard to please. We just want value for our money. And to be charged $50 for this, just in my opinion, and 78% of the boxing fans out there, by the sounds of things, is sort of voted with their feet, I suppose, in the term, that they weren't going to buy the fight. And it was just a horrible, horrible, horrible mismatch. It really was. Mark Schliebs was never in the fight. It was stopped in the fourth round. It probably could have been stopped after the second or third round. Sam Goodman just on a mission against Mark Schliebs. Probably started a little bit I thought a little bit recklessly. He got caught with a couple of counter left hooks early in the fight, but then really settled into his groove. The emotion went out of the fight, and from there it was just all business. So I thought Sam Goodman did exactly what he was supposed to do. I don't think anyone, well, I didn't anyway, expect him to knock Mark Schliebs out. Sam Goodman's not a big puncher, but he's a very, very good boxer all round. Skill-wise, great speed, great combination puncher, great footwork, and just hunted Mark Schliebs down, who looked absolutely exhausted after 2 rounds. So I don't know how a supposedly elite-level fighter can be done after 2 rounds, but again, it just shows the difference in class and levels between these two fighters. So I'm not quite sure what's next for Mark Schliebs, but Sam Goodman, by the looks of things, will get his shot at the world title hopefully this year, but if not, early next year. And contrary to what a lot of people are saying, I would love for him to fight. In a way, why not get in there and fight the best? Do I think he wins? Probably not. However, I think Sam Goodman just wants to fight the best like most elite fighters do, to get his opportunity, and will just fight anyone to get his crack at the world title. So we'll keep an eye on that. On the undercard, look, I suppose you looked at it as a bit of an upset. Isaac Harbin was stopped in 5 rounds by Andre Savadra. Now, I know I'm probably not pronouncing that right, by the way. My Spanish pronunciation is not good. I was reminded of that in the live stream we did on the night. But Andre Saavedra with a very, very impressive fifth round stoppage of Isaac Hardman. Isaac drops to 15-3. Saavedra improved to 16-1. That was for the WBO Intercontinental 160 pound title, so the middleweight title. So I'm not quite sure where Isaac goes after this. He's jumped in 3 times into probably the deep end as far as the international standard goes, and has come up short 3 times. I know he had a couple wins before this, nowhere near the level of Saavedra or a Zarafa or a Rowan Murdoch, and he's come up short. So again, as I said, I'm not quite sure where Isaac goes. He probably needs to reflect, and I have been pretty vocal in saying that he's obviously got a great trainer in Blair Studley, but I just think he needs a little bit of help from a boxing background type of mentor just to come into camp and be a bit of a consultant and a little bit of help to Team Hardman. But knowing Isaac, he'll be stewing on this, and he'll probably already be back in training and looking to bounce back. So all the best to the head splitter. I'm a big fan. Also on the undercard, Colin Mazzutia with a 5th round stoppage of Travis Druce. He dropped to 5-1, did Druce. Mazzutia improved to 12-3-1. That was a super welterweight fight. And it looks like Colin Mazzutia may be the next opponent for Nikita Tszyu. Now, I think it's an okay fight on paper. My only concern is that Mazzutia is just custom-made style-wise for Nikita. He's not very awkward. He doesn't punch hard. Well, he had a good, impressive stoppage of this one, by the way, but it's not a big puncher. Doesn't do anything particularly well, but just does everything okay. But he's a warrior. He'll come to fight. He'll stand there, a bit like a Jack Brubaker type. But as I said, I just think he's custom-made to Nikita Tszyu, who I think will just have target practice against Cohen, who doesn't really move his head a lot. And I just think, while I like the fight, by the way, having said all that, I really like the fight. I think it'll be entertaining. Colin Mazzutia will come to fight. And look, this guy's had 2 victories over Joel KO Camilleri. He's also beaten Wade Ryan, so he can fight. So I think it's, for the stage of Nikita Tszyu's career, I think it's a perfect fight for Nikita. But as I said, I just think Nikita Tszyu will make light work of Cohen. The rest of the card, Kiki Lutali with a 6-round decision over Asen Fozo. He improves to 12-2-2. Fozo drops to 5-4. That was at heavyweight. At super welterweight, or 154, Zeke Campbell improved to 5-0 with a 6-round decision over Laban Stringer. Campbell Somerville on the comeback trial with a 1st-round knockout of Sandeep Kumar. He improved to 5-1. Kumar dropped to 6-4. And in a really entertaining female fight, Chloe Gretsch had a 4-round draw with Connie Brown. I thought that Connie Brown was extremely unlucky not to win that fight, but I'm sure the girls will do it again. And in the other fight on the card, Charlie Kazi with a 4-round decision over Roy Gavira at lightweight. Last weekend on the big Joshua and Ngannou undercard in Saudi Arabia, I'll get to that card in the international section, but Justice Huni improved to 9-0 with a 10-round decision over Kevin Lerena, who drops to 30-3. The official scorecards 96-94 times 2 and 98-92. So I thought Justice Huni was impressive. Look, he had some or a scare in the last round. Lerena hit him with a counter left hook, wobbled the legs, and Justice Huni, I thought, did very, very well to hang in there and win the decision. There has been a few knocks whether Huni is up to the grade. I think it's way too early to judge him on that performance. You've got to remember Kevin Lerena having his 33rd fight, Justice Huni having his 9th fight. I think we've got to give him a little bit of time at the level, and let's just see what he brings to the table. There has been criticism about his power. I don't necessarily see it that way, because the likes of Alexander Usyk has been quite successful, of course, at heavyweight, and not a big puncher, gets by it with skill, and Justice Huni has plenty of that. So the jury's out for me with Justice. Really happy he got through this test in his career, and no doubt over the next 4 or 5 fights you will see Justice Huni hopefully improve and then take on some of the big boys in the division. A big fight that's been announced this week. Andrew Maloney will fight former world champion and current interim WBC 115 pound champion Carlos Cuadras. So that'll be on the Kambosos Lomachenko undercard May 12th in Perth. I love this fight. Andrew Maloney, I remember sitting with him in the crowd at the Superfly tournament back in 2017, watching Carlos Cuadras fight. Won Estrada, and Andrew saying at the time how he'd love to test himself against someone like Quadros or Estrada or Chocolatito, one of these guys. And now here he is in a big 12-round WBC interim world title fight against the Mexican Warrior. So Andrew Maloney, 26-3, Quadros 42-5-1. Should be a great fight on the undercard of that big Kambosos Lomachenko event. Quadros does not stop punching. Maloney, same thing, does not stop punching. This has got war written all over it. And on the undercard as well, the other big fight on that is a WBA bantamweight title fight between Shanika Johnson and Nina Hughes. Also looking forward to that one. Should be three really, really good fights on a massive card. And if you're in Perth, make sure you get there. And if you're not there, then make sure you buy it. I think it's $70 to watch it. In my opinion, money well spent. So if you're going to spend money on any pay-per-view this year, apart from Tim Tszyu and I'm sure Nikita, and there'll be a few others, Jaya Pattaya maybe, I think this is the one to get. Very, very good card. This Sunday, March 17th in Queensland at the Fortitude Music Hall, Connor Wallace will fight Jack Gipp over 10 rounds at light heavyweight or 175 pounds. Connor Wallace 12-1, Jack Gipp 7-0. Now, don't sleep on Jack Gipp. That's what I'm saying about this fight. This will be a very, very entertaining contest. Connor Wallace has looked great in his last few fights, but Jack Gipp, even though he's only had the 7 fights, very, very good amateur background, and I think he will give Connor Wallace all he can handle. Having said that, I did say last year that Matt Sheehan would give Connor Wallace a great fight and got wiped out in a round. But Jack Gibb, trained by Marcus Amato here in Melbourne, very well trained, very well prepared, and I think, as I said, he will take it right up to Connor Wallace. On the undercard, Jake Wiley will fight Ashley Houston over 8 rounds for the Australasian Super Lightweight title, and Matt Floyd will fight Cole Smith for the Australasian Light Heavyweight title over 12 rounds. If you've got DAZN, check it out. It's live and free. Well, it's free if you've got the DAZN app. So it's one of the few Australian DAZN shows for the year. So check it out. Sunday, March 17, Fortitude Music Hall. A big fight that's possibly about to be announced soon is Liam Paro up against Subriel Matias for the IBF 140-pound title. They're looking at June 15 in Puerto Rico on DAZN. So this has been a little bit of back and forth about will this fight happen or won't it. The talk is now we're only hopefully days away from this fight being announced. So Liam Paro, 24-0, Matias 20-1. I think it's a great fight. I think Liam Paro has a very, very good chance in that fight. Matias is an absolute beast, but you've got to test yourself, and you don't know what you're capable of until you're in there with someone like Subriel Matias. So all the best to Liam Paro if and when that fight takes place. On to the world scene, and this is probably, we know this has been coming for a couple of weeks. Canelo Alvarez has been announced that he'll fight Jaime Munguia on May the 4th in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena for the undisputed 168-pound title. Canelo Alvarez, 60 wins, 2 losses, and 2 draws. Jaime Munguia, 43-0, and I love this fight. I know we all want David Benavidez, but I think for me, the second best fight after Benavidez is Jaime Munguia. 43-0, comes to fight. I think Canelo Alvarez wins the fight. I think Munguia's, I won't say tailor-made for Canelo Alvarez, but he does tend to perform against the taller guys who give him a little bit of room where he can hook to the head, hook to the body, and everything else. And I think it'll be an entertaining fight. Munguia always comes to fight, so I think it's going to be a very entertaining fight, but Canelo Alvarez for me. Last weekend, the big card, as I mentioned before, with Justis Huni, that he was on in Saudi Arabia. Anthony Joshua improved to 28-3 with a, what would you call it, destruction of Francis Ngannou in the second round. So Francis Ngannou drops to 0-2. I don't know what else to say about this fight. I'm sure you've all seen it out there. It was just one of those atom bomb type of right hands that Joshua landed, and it was a good night for Ngannou. And I think it's for the first time that I've seen where a boxer has actually gone into a fight with a crossover opponent with destruction on his mind. And that's the way Joshua entered the ring. And I really like the mindset of Anthony Joshua. And if he continues with that mindset, I think he can give Fury and Usyk all they can handle. There is talk that if he doesn't get to fight one of those guys next, of course, they're fighting on, was it May 18th in Saudi Arabia, that he might step towards Filip Hrgovic as a in-between fight. Pretty dangerous in-between fight, I will say, but you've got to give Anthony Joshua credit for fighting often and fighting good quality opponents. Arguably, I suppose you could. All right, on the undercard of that as well, Joseph Parker improves to 35-3 with a 12-round decision over Zhilei Zhang, who dropped to 26-2-1. The scorecards 114, 112, 115, 111, and 113, 113. So good win to Joseph Parker, a majority decision there. And what next for him? A little bit of fly in the ointment in the fact that he's already lost to Joshua. Whether Joshua will give him another fight. He's great mates with Tyson Fury, and I'm not quite sure Usyk will want to fight him with so many other big fights out there as well. So a little bit of rock and a hard place for Joseph Parker, but if anyone deserves a shot at the title, it's this bloke, Joseph Parker. So all the best to him. Also on the undercard of that event, Ray Vargas and Nick Ball fought to a draw in the contest for the WBC 126-pound title or featherweight. Vargas moved to 36-1-1, and Nick Ball dropped to 19-0-1. The decision there, the scorecards, 114, 112 for Vargas, 116, 110 for Ball, and 113, 113 a draw. And in the other fight of note on that card, Israil Madrimov improved to 10-0-1 with a fifth-round stoppage of Magomed Kurbanov to win the vacant WBA 154-pound title. So has Madrimov put himself in a position to fight Tim Tszyu? Let's see. It's great that the belts are all now freed, by the way. This is WBA version. Of course, Tim is defending his WBO version. Fandora will be fighting for the WBC title on the undercard of Tim's fight with Keith Thurman, and the IBF belt looks like it's in play for next month as well. So some exciting times at 154, and our man Tim Tszyu right in the middle of it. So we'll see what happens there over the next few months. Of course, Tim has to get past Keith Thurman first. So, as I said, lots of exciting things happening at 154. Just one thing, again, on the heavyweights, I did mention about the Usyk, Fury, Joshua Parker situation at the moment, or the heavyweight division in general. The Sheik, or His Excellency, or whatever you might want to call him, has said that if, in fact, it turns out that Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua fight, he is prepared to have it at Wembley Stadium. Now, I've been vocal about this as well. I think it'll be a travesty, as much as the Sheik and His Excellency, or whatever they call them these days, all the people involved in the Saudi Arabia experiment have been great. I just think it would be a travesty, as I said, that the fight would be in Saudi Arabia. This fight has to be at Wembley Stadium. Now, I know I'm getting ahead of myself here because we haven't seen the Fury and Usyk fight yet, but if they do happen to fight later in the year, it has to be at Wembley Stadium in front of 90 to 100,000 people. I think it would just be an injustice, and it's great to see that the Sheik and Eddie Hearn have already put it out there that if the fight does take place, that they are prepared to put it in London at Wembley Stadium. So great news there. On to this weekend, William Zepeda, 29-0, will fight Maxi Hughes, 26-6-2 at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. It will be on DAZN, so if you have that app, make sure you watch it. I, for one, think Zepeda will be far too strong for Maxi Hughes, but credit to Maxi. Never shirks the issue, always fights whoever's put in front of him, especially after the controversial loss to George Kambosos last year. It's great to see him getting another crack at it, and I'm sure he'll give William Zepeda maybe some troubles for 3 or 4 rounds, but after that, I'll just see William Zepeda, with the amount of punches he throws and the pressure he puts on and the power punches he does throw, I think he's going to be a little bit too much for Maxi Hughes. I'm expecting a 7th or 8th round stoppage there. One disappointing thing this week has been the postponement of the Josh Taylor-Jack Catterall rematch. It was supposed to be in late April. Apparently Josh Taylor has an injury and it looks like being in late May. So that's a shame because it has been put off in the past because of injury. Let's hope that fight actually comes to fruition. So that's Josh Taylor, Jack Catterall put back until late May at this stage. One big fight that's been or not been postponed or cancelled or anything so far is the Juan Francisco Estrada and Jesse Bam Rodriguez fight. Looks like being June 29th in Phoenix, Arizona, for Estrada's WBC Super Flyweight title. So Estrada 44-3. Rodriguez 19-0. Could this be a classic passing of the torch fight? I think it might be. Estrada hasn't been very active in the last couple of years. Rodriguez is just getting better and better, and I think Rodriguez will have too much for an aging Estrada, but still can't wait to see that fight. And one last thing to touch on before we finish up, Shakur Stevenson. As expected, the retirement is over and he'll return on July 6th to defend his WBC lightweight title. Shakur Stevenson, 21-0. No opponent just yet, but as I said, he'll be back to defend that WBC lightweight title. And good to see him back. All things aside, we joke about these retirements, but Shakur Stevenson has got way too many big fights left in front of him for him to retire now. So I, for one, am glad to see him back. So that's it for this week, guys. Make sure you check out tomorrow the interview I'm doing with Glenn Jennings and Liam Wilson in the lead up to Liam Wilson's fight with Oscar Valdez and, did I say Benny Harrington? Sorry, the trainer of Liam Wilson, who's fighting Oscar Valdez. Of course, Tim Tszyu fighting Keith Thurman. So that'll be at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time if you want to check that out. So thanks again, guys. Have a great weekend watching the boxing, and we'll catch up with you next Friday for all the latest news from around Australia and the world.